to the Mavs Fans for Life podcast. I'm Landon Thomas, joined by my co-host Shahnavaz, Makhani. Shahnavaz, this episode we'll be talking about how the Mavericks have been doing lately, and we also got some bad news, but maybe good news for playoffs with Dereck Lively injury. It's like, man, this team is finally getting healthy. Then you got Josh Green. I know you can't catch a break at all, and then you got Lively. It's like, dang, but we will talk about how they've been doing, which has been really good as of late. I mean, if you just missed that Warriors game, I mean, that was only a 4-point game, but geez, I mean, the Mavs team is on a roll right now. Shahnavaz, what's your thoughts on this team going into the last, 10 days or so, and last 6 games, one of them being tonight? Speaking of the Warriors.
Huge game tonight against the Warriors. And that game Tuesday, I mean, that was one of the most poorly officiated games I've ever seen. Like, that game was ridiculous, in California. And I think for the Mavericks, I think we forget that game wasn't scheduled, right? That was rescheduled from the unfortunate passing of the Wizards coach earlier in the year. And so, having that little schedule blip, especially when they spent so much time on the road, and then had to come back to Houston to play the Rockets on Sunday and then fly back to California when they had already been there. It takes a toll on you. So I think this, that little quirk, I don't put too much into the loss. And at the same time, it's like, that's your first game without Dereck Lively. So I think the Mavericks were still trying to figure out, you could see the struggles from the bench. I mean, the Warriors bench just completely took over that game. And I think Dallas had been clicking on all cylinders for so long with Gafford and Lively that having Lively out, you're basically the same team you were before the trade, right? Because Gafford and Lively are kind of interchangeable. And so I think they had to kind of learn how to play. And it was only a 4-point game. Like, the Mavericks honestly should have lost by a lot more. And they didn't. They had that crazy run in the third quarter to get back into it, and then at the end of the fourth as well. So I thought the Hawks game, when they were down, the resiliency they showed to come back, and even when the shots weren't falling, to step it up defensively, I think is more indicative of what this team is and what this team has the potential to do, when the playoffs start in here in a couple of weeks. But they're playing their best basketball at the right time. They've got all the momentum. Yeah. They've got Luka's playing the best basketball of his career, and it seems like he just can't be stopped. Like, there's nothing that's going to bring him down. Even bad shooting nights, he's still putting up triple doubles. Kyrie has been on another level now that he's finally healthy, and we've seen him play this consecutive streak game, and he's closing in on that 50, 40, 90 season that, you talk about. And the role players, I mean, PJ Washington, didn't have a good game in Golden State, but lit it up last night against Atlanta. If the Mavericks can just get that third guy it doesn't matter who it is. This team no longer needs like, oh, we need a third star. We need a third this. You just need a third guy to step up in the right moment, like PJ Washington did last night, and the Mavericks will be fine because Luka and Kyrie, I think, combined have the highest scoring output of any two-guard combination in NBA history. I think they're averaging about 58 points a game combined. So when you've got those two guys, and then you throw in there Daniel Gafford and a Derek Jones and a Dante Exum and even Tim Hardaway Jr. sometimes. He had a great game last night against Atlanta. This team's got all the pieces and all the makings of a potential, to make a potential run in the playoffs. But the West is so crazy right now that every game counts. That's the unfortunate part, is every single game counts. And the Mavericks just have to handle their business here as the season closes.
I like that you put that in there, because that's what this season has really boiled down to. Every single game counts, and it makes you just think about the impact that Lively has. I mean, you just talked about them needing a third guy or third option to step it up every night because they have the top two guys. But, when I really think about it, I even posted this, Lively and Gafford was the third guy. I mean, when they were really on a roll, that tandem, was like a 18, 11 and 3 blocks a game. And that's really, your third guy. Kind of like together, kind of like a Dwight Howard prime. I mean, both of them putting up 40 minutes, but it's tough because, like you said, the bench, and that's what we'll see tonight is, the Warriors bench and how did they respond. Obviously, Powell played a lot more in that game, and then last night, then against the Hawks last night, he only played 8 minutes. So you saw a lot of Maxey playing the 5, and I think it really works. We talked about it. It does work. The scheme or the schematics of that strategy works, but you know, when Maxey is not on, it doesn't look good. But he's been playing. He's been playing good as of late.
He
You
played
know,
great last
he's
night. I
knocking
thought
down some shots.
defensively, he was blocking
Defensively,
people.
he's really on it.
He was great last night
because he has to be. He has to be for the Mavericks to finish strong. I mean, it is tough seeing, you know, two of your rotation guys out, two important rotation guys out, and you're seeing Maxey play all, very pivotal minutes for this team because they have to get some wins. There's really no chance of resting them unless you can get to the Pistons game or you can get to the Hornets game. But they have to win those games too, not just because who they're facing, but the teams behind them. It's tough. Like you said, the West is a gauntlet, but I think they're doing great. I think Kyrie being healthy, like you mentioned, is really good for this team. Just Kyrie and Luka being together, you really see what the potential. You're really seeing the reality of their potential together, and it's important for this franchise because they're obviously winning games when they play. And even Kyrie, he said it in the post game. He has the meme of ESPN giving the Mavericks a D for trading him. I mean, it's kind of cool when you see a guy of that magnitude from what he's done in his career. I mean, just from the simple fact of winning a championship, but the individual accolades and just the aura that he has. He still keeps receipts. He still keeps those moments that motivate him. Obviously, playing basketball is a motivation within itself, but just that extra that little seasoning of motivation to get you over the edge on nights like when you have to play the Hawks or when you have to play these type of teams. But the Hornets, you don't need motivation at all. They just beat you.
Yep.
And you're on the road. You said it, the officiating, especially the Klay Thompson, he had like 14, 15 seconds and he traveled and they were down
was so
2.
ridiculous.
That was so bad. That was so bad.
Two officials looking at you, like staring at you, and you took like 8 steps.
Yeah, it was ridiculous because that really cemented the game because he shot free throws right after that getting fouled because it was only a certain amount of time left, 15 seconds left. But I do applaud this team, just even with that game that they made it close because they got down big in that game. And they fought back like 2 or 3 times in that game and made it close. So I do applaud them, especially that road trip that they're on that you mentioned. And then, they won since the last week's podcast, they won 3-1. They won that second game of the Kings, which was huge. It was huge. Especially down now we have like 6 games to go. You don't know that last couple games where the Mavericks team and just the other Western Conference teams are going to be at in the standings. It could be, 3 or 4 teams neck and neck in the last 2 or the last 1 game. Get you in the playoffs or get you in the play-in. And it's incredible to see this team, how they're coming together. And I do got to give a highlight to PJ Washington, just his confidence. Some games, like, his first, 15 games or so, his shot was not going in and he was just stellar at defense. But now you're seeing him where he's aggressive on offense. And some nights it goes in, some nights it goes out. But the last 5 games, he's shooting 45% from the 3-point range. And not only that, obviously he's missed some bunnies, but we said it. I mean, his mid range, his floater game is inside the paint. His hook shots, they're really nice.
Yeah.
But just you see on his on nights how good this team is. Like when him, THJ too, but like when him, Luka, and Kyrie got it going, it's really hard to beat the Mavs. And then when you have THJ making shots on top of that, it's game over. So I look forward to seeing how they do tonight against the Warriors.
Yeah, and I think another part of the Warriors game on Tuesday, obviously the travel factored in, but Golden State's been playing
Yeah,
really well, and let's not forget Golden State's fighting for their lives
true.
also. Like Golden State's they're also they're trying to get Houston out of there. It's a huge win for them last night for the Warriors to beat the
Huge,
Rockets.
big statement.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and you're looking down now at the barrel of LeBron and Steph in a play-in game, and the loser's out, and the winner gets a chance to be the 8 seed.
you
So
know
it's
the
kind of
NBA hates that.
oh, I think they love it. That
You know the
that
NBA,
viewership for that game is going to be nuts. Are you kidding me? That they're going
but
to
they
rake.
want one of them to make the
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
the
Yeah,
last couple spots.
I think that's going to be such a huge moneymaker for them. It's not. I mean,
Mhm.
um, but
But the Lakers have a chance to get past the Kings. Look at the
yeah, I mean,
standings;
and that's what I'm saying. Like
they're on
the
a run too.
Mavs are 2 games out of fifth, but they're also only a game ahead of seventh. So or excuse me, they're 2 games out of fourth. They're in fifth right now. They're 2 games
Yeah,
out
yeah.
of 4
Mhm.
seed, but they're 1 game out from being in the plan. So it's like you've got to win every game down the stretch. And after tonight,
Yeah,
after tonight, the Mavericks don't play. I mean, Houston, I think, is out at this point. Now that they've lost to Dallas, and
yeah. That game
that loss last
and the
night
Warriors
really
were
set them back.
tough.
Yeah, Dallas has got to play Houston on Sunday, and then I mean, you're really Hornets, Heat, Pistons, and Thunder, and by that Thunder game, they may be resting players. I mean that they're not going to really, assuming that seeding's locked up. I don't know how that's going to go. Um, and the other, I mean, it's kind of. I was looking at this and I'm like, man, is this a benefit or not for Dallas? And you tell me, Landon, because you look at the teams that are kind of right behind them, or you right in front of them, the Clippers. Clippers play the Jazz tonight. Then they got to play Cleveland, who has been kind of struggling, and then they've got a back to
Mhm.
back Tuesday, Wednesday against Phoenix, which is gonna that those 2 games are going to determine a lot. And then you've got the team behind
And
Dallas,
the
and
Suns are going to be fighting for those games too in their positioning.
yep, and then you've got the team behind Dallas, the Pelicans, who are also trying to stay out of the play-in tournament. They've got the Suns on Sunday. Then they close the season with Sacramento, Golden State, and the Lakers. All teams that are trying to fight. I mean, this week is going to be
Yeah,
nuts. Like this week is going to be the
that's good
Mavs.
for the Mavericks.
It's good for the Mavs because you've got Charlotte, Detroit,
They're
and
playing each
Miami,
other.
and all these teams are playing each other. But Dallas just has to. You just got to do. I mean, win your games. I mean, do your job. Like you win these games that you're supposed to win, and let the other teams beat up on each other. And
Mhm.
for Dallas especially, I mean, with the injury to Lively, with the injury to Green, with Luka, maybe needing some time, Kyrie getting some rest in there, having that week off and not having to play in the play-in tournament is going to be so huge for the Mavs going into the
Yeah,
playoffs. Like
yeah,
they've got to stay at least in the 6th seed, if not, move up and get home court.
yeah. No, you're totally right. I mean, it really it really sucks that you're at this point in time, especially that road trip was a killer. But you just said it. You have to win games. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. If you want rest, avoid the play-in. I
Yep.
mean, that's 4 days, at least 4 days without games. Obviously, they'll be prepping for their opponent, but you have 4 days without a game, and that's just playoff. That's just when playoffs start. Like playoff starts April 20th, and then the play in is the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. So that's 4 days. And who's to say they get their first game on the 21st? So that could be 5 days.
Yeah.
So, like you said, avoid the plan and you get that week off. And that would be huge, not only for Kyrie and Luca, who have huge heavy minutes and usage on their bodies, but Lively and Green, who are going to be coming back. Well, Green's going to be coming back soon. Lively, who knows? I mean, could miss the rest of the regular season, and that kind of sounds worse than it really is because there's only 10 days
Yeah,
left in the
when that was
regular
reported, I was like,
season.
wait, end of regular season. I was like, so you're talking like a week? Like that's fine.
And that's what the best thing is it's a sprain, so it's not anything serious.
Yeah.
In the regular season like in the middle of the season, you would just miss a couple weeks and come back. But now that it is crunch time, they're going to need Lively in the playoffs or play in. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in these final 6 games? It's not a guarantee that they'll avoid the play in because, like you said, that the teams are so tight knit amongst each other. But Lively and Green are going to be pivotal for a playoff series if they do make the playoffs, which it looks like they're on the direction and on the trajectory to make the playoffs. You need those guys, and from what you just mentioned, it's good that those teams are playing each other because it helps the Mavericks not only standings wise, but it just helps them down the stretch on them beating each other up.
Yep.
I mean, because the East right now is a cupcake. I mean, how many games back are the Mavs from the Bucks? That's what I want to know because the East is horrible.
The East, it's like, you know what? And it would not shock me at all if Philly or Miami is playing in the conference finals.
With Embiid back
as two playing teams. Those are probably the two teams outside of Boston.
It happened last year
that I trust the most in the Eastern Conference. Like that conference is a joke. And now with the Knicks, with Julius Randle out the rest of the year, that's a huge loss for them. That sucks. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's been hurt for Cleveland. Pacers have been struggling. It looks like it's going to be Miami or Philly again against Boston. If you're Boston, do you really want to see Miami again? Like that's,
no,
it's a good thing.
You don't at all. And you don't even want to see the Sixers with Embiid. They look good with Embiid, and he's just getting back. Like, just imagine 5 or 6 games remaining to get his wind up. He looks better than when he missed games. He looks great. But now that when you get your energy and you get your breath, or you get your wind, and just getting game shape, that could be a scary team. Because Maxey, his role is back down to what it should be, the second best player on that team, and he's going to have more energy. Yep. So it's just a scary. If I'm the Celtics, I mean, obviously they've been the best team in the league. Denver had a couple of moments where they look like the best team in the league, but it is the Celtics. But you do not want to face the Sixers or the Heat.
Yeah.
But just speaking on the Mavericks, I mean, you don't want to face anybody. But the dream case scenario is the Mavericks stay at 5th seed. I know some people are like, but the Clippers. I mean, have you seen the Mavericks lately?
I'm not worried. The Clippers are
yeah.
I know they won against the Nuggets last night, but that team is shambles.
But a healthy Kawhi. I mean, I know he's been out, but I think the rest. I mean, who knows what's going on over there?
I never know.
But that's what I'm saying. They could be resting him for the playoffs for the Mavericks because he's been missing games and quote unquote injuries. But you never know. They could put him in the climatic chamber and freeze him for the playoffs against the Mavericks because who wants to see a healthy Kyrie and Luka coming at you with new role players and PJ Washington hitting his threes? I mean, that's a scary team. But the reason I said that is because Denver, they lost their last game, and the Timberwolves, they're only a half game behind the Timberwolves for the 1st seed. So if the Timberwolves take care of business and they get the 1st seed, you have the Mavericks and Clippers. The winner of that, just from how it is right now, the winner of that team plays the Timberwolves and whoever gets the 8th seed. I mean, that's where you want to be you want to avoid the Nuggets. And just imagine the other side. The other side, as it is right now, could be the Thunder, Phoenix, Nuggets, and whoever gets the 7th seed.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking first off with respect to the Clippers. Yes, we've seen what playoff Kawhi can do, and we've seen playoff Paul George sometimes. But let's not forget what Luka does.
And we've seen playoff James Harden.
Yeah, God. Let's not forget what Luka does to the Clippers, and now he's actually got a second guy next to him in Kyrie. So if I'm the Clippers, I don't want to play Dallas because I think Dallas has the size to beat them down low, to bully Ivica Zubac. You can stick PJ on Kawhi, and I think his length could potentially give Kawhi fits. And just Luka against the Clippers, like we've seen it. He averages monster numbers against them in the playoffs, and I think it's kind of setting up that way because it's like, how storybook would it be if it's like the team that keeps knocking Luka out is the Clippers, and now he goes in and just destroys them. Now that he's got,
I think he needs it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Even though he went on that Western Conference run, that will be finally, the chip off the shoulder.
Yeah, slay that demon that is Steve Ballmer and the Clippers. And how poetic would it be to beat them like at Crypto before they move to their new arena? Like that'd be so. I mean, it's
housewarming gift.
Yeah, it's like, and then you're absolutely right. Like your ultimate goal, I think, when you're the Mavericks aren't playing for, we have to finish in this seed to avoid Denver. I don't think any team is doing that. But you obviously want to not play them until the conference finals. That's your ultimate. Let them get worn down. Let them go to maybe a couple game, 6-7 game series. And they're having health issues too. Like, is Jamal Murray going to be healthy by the time when the playoffs start? What happens if he gets injured again? There's a lot, and they don't have the depth that they did last year. Losing Bruce Brown and Jeff Green is huge. So
that's true.
If you're Dallas, you've got depth. You've got the right role players now around Luka. Like, this is setting up for the Mavericks to make a run to the conference finals. Like, if everything works itself out, and then anything can happen. Like, we saw Dallas beat Denver on a Kyrie game winner. Like, can Dallas if Dallas can push Denver to a game 7, all bets are off. Like, anything can happen at that point. And let's not forget, Landon, the way that it's turning out. To your point, if OKC plays Phoenix, what happens if the Lakers play Denver? Like, the Lakers match up pretty well against the Nuggets, right? If the Nuggets fall to the 3 seed, who's to say Denver even makes it to the conference finals? Like the West is just so convoluted, and it's even like the top. Like, we talk about these middle teams and the play-in teams, and yeah, they're all within a game out. But I think the battle at the top is pretty noteworthy as well, because depending on where wherever OKC, Denver, and Minnesota finish, that could pose a problem for whoever they play coming out of the play-in, because some of those teams that are in the play-in match up really well with those top 3 seeds.
Yeah, and that's what it really boils down to. I know we just had March Madness, but this is really March/April Madness with the NBA, just the Western Conference, the final 10 games, the final week. I mean, a week from today, how we're saying this podcast right now, everything could be different in the next episode. I mean, you really, and that's what it really boils down to. And I like the clarity. I like the behind the scenes of transparency that the players give, because some players will give the cliche, say, oh no, we just focus on ourselves, we just have to win our games. Players have said it previously in the past week or so, that they're watching other games, and they know their positioning every game. They know where they're fighting for and where they're fighting from, and that's, I like those answers, because it's showing that the players are, just like us, we're covering, we're watching these games just like they are. They're playing the game, but they're watching the standings. They're watching other teams. They're watching, obviously the players watch other teams in, League Pass during the season, but they're really watching now. I mean, they're really watching the teams that they're competing with and seeing how they do against other teams. And especially when, like you mentioned, the schedule, they're playing each other. They're seeing how they match up, how do they play, how are they schematically scheming for, those type of games against each other, and how does that compare to how they play against us, stuff like that. Just seeing that behind the scenes from a player's point of view is appreciative, because they could just go with the normal answer, we just focus on us, and they really have to, because they have to win games, but they're also focusing on other teams as well. So, and just like you mentioned, I mean, that's what's crazy is the Lakers are so neck and neck, where they could move up to 6th seed, they can move up to 7th seed, and they can move up to 8th seed. It really boils down to how all these all these teams and all these players, how they play in the last remaining games. And you just mentioned it, some of these teams are going to be playing each other, so those are going to be playing. Like, I know the playing is really what the NBA loves to sell and advertise, but these are playing games. Like
Yeah,
the
like we're in the
final week
playoffs.
is playing
Like this
games.
is,
Yeah.
you're in the playoffs now. Like
You
those
slip up, it
those felt like
hurts.
playoff basketball. Like the Mavs Kings games last week were like,
Even
I
the
mean,
Warriors,
yeah, and
all these games,
they
yeah.
all feel like playoff battles. And I can't remember a time where the last week of the NBA season was this crucial. Like I think back to years past, and we're all just kind of like waiting, like okay, X, the number one seed's 5 games ahead. There's no way they're going to lose 5 in a row, and the play-in's already set. It's just a matter of who finishes 7, 8, 9, 10. This is like, I mean, you're talking about a major shift. Like 5 could go down to 8, and 8 could move up to 5 within a week, within like a few days. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It really is. And you know, you you really just have to play your best and just see where they fall. If they're on the side of the bracket slash playoff, Western Conference playoffs as the Nuggets, it is what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, you've shown that you can beat them in the regular season. You you've mentioned it yourself. Their bench is not as good as it was last year, and it's not at all. And Bram and Bram and what's his name, uh, Watson. They're good players, but
They're young.
they're not anything that strikes fear. I mean, yeah, they're very young. They haven't had this type of big moments, more usage, because those were Brown's minutes and those were Green's minutes, you know. And on the other side, it's the same way. I'm not going to just say it's just the other teams, but I'm just saying if I'm the Mavericks, if I'm Kyrie and Luca, even Kyrie says it, no fear.
Yep.
I would not have fear with any Western Conference team if they are on their game and take care of business,
Yeah.
being healthy, because you're seeing it now. They can beat anybody. They can also lose to anybody if they're not making shots, but
Or turn the ball over.
recently they're shut or turning it over lately.
Yeah.
But
The last 2 games were tough.
but that's what you're kind of seeing is, even though they show flaws, like in comparison to the first half of the season, like they still are fighting. They still are in these games,
Yep.
and they're showing a different edge that they believe, no matter how big they are, how big they have a lead or how down they are in a game. And that shows pivotal, because in the playoffs, you're going to have ups and downs, back and forths, and every single possession matters. So you just have to stay poised and stay on track and stay focused to get yourself into a quality win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think when you've got the second best player in the NBA on your team, like you shouldn't be scared of anybody. You've got Luka Doncic. Like, Dallas should go in. They may not go into every series as the favorite. They'll probably be the underdogs in against any of those top 4 teams. Top 3. I think if it's Mavs Clippers, I think Mavs would get the edge there. But there's no fear when you've got Luka, and now like. To your point, even when Dallas is struggling, we've seen them stay engaged and stay in games and come back, even against the Warriors. Yes, it was a loss, but we turned the ball over that much, and the officiating was what it was, and they don't call travel on Klay Thompson. Like, losses happen, like it's a part of the NBA. It's just the fact that Dallas was able to come back and claw back and put themselves in a position to potentially win the game at the end says a lot about who this team is. And I think I think they're playing with an insane level of confidence. And that bodes well going into any playoff series, especially when you've got Luka Doncic, but now you've got a healthy Kyrie Irving. I think that's the biggest factor for Dallas is you've got a guy that has won a championship before. He knows what it's about. He knows what it takes. He understands the pressure of the playoffs. Be a guy who's insanely motivated to prove people wrong and get back to kind of the praise and accolades that he was getting before, when he was one of the top players in the league, and see a guy that clearly fits with Luka. Like that was the biggest question mark was do Kyrie and Luka fit, and now that he's healthy, we're seeing, how well they play off each other, and how well the even in nights like last night when Luka doesn't score in the first quarter because of foul trouble, Kyrie takes over. Normally we see Luka Doncic taking over in the first quarter and Kyrie closing out the games. But you saw Kyrie step up when the moment needed it, and I think that's those are huge, huge, benefits for Dallas as the season winds down and they look ahead to the playoffs. I think they're well in position to face anybody, and I don't think I know you and I talked about this a couple of months ago, and it was like, what do we realistically expect for Dallas? You and I both said they're probably 7 seed. They're going to be in the play-in. Do they even get out of the play-in? Who knows, right? But, we're talking about Jason Kidd and his job, and we're like, we're saying, well, if they win a playoff series, great. We're now at the point, Landon, where we're starting to say this team could be in the conference finals again. And not, this is a much better team than the team that made the conference finals 2 years ago. So there's a legitimate chance, like, that this Dallas team could surprise a lot of people, and I think they're playing with the right chemistry, the right mindset at the right time, and I think that's insanely important.
Yeah, it really is. Especially you rather have them peak at the end of the season than the middle of the season. So that's what you're seeing with this team, and it just makes you wonder where would this team be if Powell doesn't fall on Kyrie, or if Exum doesn't miss all those games, or even Maxey if he's healthy, but Lively, but it is a testament to how this team is post trade deadline, and how stable PJ Washington and Gafford are.
Yep.
Most times they're on their game and they're doing really great for this team, especially defensively. But even the off nights on offense, they play games. They don't like missing games, and they don't get hurt that often. So that's one true value of them being here, outside of what they provide on the court or their personality, who both of them have meshed very well and they know their role. But just them being available is a great testament to where this Mavs team is, because you can rely on them. But just thinking back, the last time, just on your Clippers comment, I mean, you can say that both teams. It's weird, right? Because the last time they played, Boban was a starting center for the Mavericks. I mean, come on now. Trey Burke and all them. THJ had a great series, though. Remember that 20-point series? I mean, that's the only playoff series he really dominated. Shooting the ball. It's very interesting because Brunson was not Brunson back then.
Is that the bubble? That was the bubble, right?
No, the one after that was not. Yeah, the bubble was the first one. And then you have on the other side, Harden wasn't there, Westbrook wasn't there. I do miss seeing Beverly, Marquise brother Marcus, and then also Montrezl Harrell. Like that was like the rivalry with the Mavericks. I mean, with Luka. I mean, you still have the main components, PG, Kawhi, and Luka. I mean, but Maxey, but like those were like the role players, like Dorian, and Trey Burke, like they were really getting after each other, and it was cool to watch. But I think there'll be another sort of rivalry between them if they do play in the series, just off of pure hoops. Like who's the best of the best, rather than the mind games and stuff going on there, but like just who's the best of the best. And I think that's going to be a pure masterclass of seeing Kyrie and Luka, and then Kawhi and PG. Harden will have his moments, and then THJ and PJ will have their moments. But just to see the battle of who wants to win that game, and see Luka's seriousness, because regular seasons is we see him serious about the game, but like when it's playoffs, like he goes, you don't see as much joking around as you do regular season. He wants to win those games bad, And then Kyrie, we haven't seen playoff Kyrie in the Mavs uniform. I know you are. I'm excited to see that.
Awesome.
Because he's going to be on his game. And you're going to see both of those players. You're not going to see no resting in the fourth. You're going to see all given all out in those playoff series. So I'm interested to see how this Western Conference finishes the season. It's going to be a beauty just to watch.
Yeah, it's funny. We could potentially have Mavs Clippers round 3, Lakers Suns, and Kings Warriors as playoff matchups.
Wait, Lakers Suns
in the play-in, right? Wouldn't they? If
play-in,
in the play-in tournament, and Kings Warriors, a rematch of last year. Like, can you imagine that? Like, that would be awesome. You could have LeBron versus Steph. First round, for a play-in game.
But only one game though. Dang. Yeah, I want a series of that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking the potential matchups. Like, this Western Conference is so crazy. Like, it's just, the potential matchups, just as a basketball fan, I'm super excited because it's going to be great to watch.
It really is. And you could also flip that around. You could see the Kings miss the playoffs. You could see the Pelicans miss the playoffs if they drop in the play-in, because like you said, you mentioned the Lakers and Warriors, they're really coming after them. So if you lose 2 games, you're out.
Yep.
Or if you're in the 9th and 10th, you lose 1 game, you're out. And you just mentioned how great the Warriors are playing. The Lakers are playing just as good. And this is going to be a great week. So I'm excited to see where we're at next week in the episode. Could be really good or really bad. But one thing is for sure, the Mavericks are playing really well, and they have to play great tonight. We know how they play against smaller teams or stretch bigs or, just smaller bigs with Draymond. So last word, Shahnavaz. I mean, the game's in a few hours or, the clock is ticking. What would you like to see from the Mavericks tonight against the Warriors?
Just get a win. That's it. That's all you got to do. Just keep winning.
That's simple. It really is. Yeah. It's that simple. Yeah, and I would like to see them obviously get a win just for their mental space, and then also the standings and just the vibes and the chemistry around this team has been really good lately. But I would like to see PJ have another great night shooting the ball. I think it was 5 of 8 last game, 45% from the last 5 games. I would like to see him hit his threes because, I think he struggled against the Warriors. If him and THJ have another great night shooting the ball, I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
But when they're not shooting the ball, it's very close against the Warriors. So I'd like to see how they do against that and how they defend Draymond and Steph Curry. So you see the usernames. Make sure y'all follow us on social and then subscribe to the podcast. And we appreciate y'all for tuning in. We'll see how things go for the rest of the next 7 days, and then we'll see where we're at in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye, everyone.